Oh. Oh. That's not real. That can't be real. Hey, I'm Ed Burnett, a passionate treasure hunter and keen detectorist. I've got the Legend metal detector by Nokta today, and I'm going to be using it at the beach. Now, beach detecting is one of my favorite, and it's definitely my specialty detecting type. It's a little bit involved, there's a few little tricks, but with this machine, we're actually going to be using in factory default, so totally stock, no setting changes, see how it goes, and then we're going to enter a little bit of tips and tricks on how to get some better performance out of it, and some really cool little things to get a massive edge on the competition out there. All right, let's get into it and see what we find. So we're actually on version 1.11, which is the newest version update, and it has this bottle cap rejection setting, which we'll talk about. Basically, all I'm going to do is press this right arrow a couple times to go to the beach mode. Now, if you look at this big M here, which stands for multi or multi-frequency, we press this button here, we go from D to W, from dry to wet. Because this is a wet sand beach and we've got salt water everywhere, we just want to put it in that because most metal detectors, when they're not in a specialized mode for wet sand detecting, they will make a lot of signals on the sand itself as you're going. Speaking of signals, we just got one right here. So as you can see, I haven't walked this part of the beach yet. What have we got? I'm just going to duck down. You can feel it. That is a Fanta cap. So I've just dug that Fanta cap up. Essentially, this one actually might be a bit old, but what this tells me is no one's detected right here because this signal, the signal that this gives is very similar to most gold rings. And basically, if no one's dug them already, then you know you're in a patch that no one's recently detected here. So that's really good. And this one might actually have a bit of age to it. Another good sign. Let's keep going. Like I said, this is in factory default setting. So absolute factory, I haven't changed a thing. And I don't really feel the need to either because it's very stable, as you can hear or can't hear. Super quiet. While a lot of detectors, as soon as they get near this salt water or even over this wet sand here, you can see it's very wet and damp as soon as I dig into it. That's salt water. That normally sets off most detectors. However, because we're in this specialized beach mode with the multi-frequency wet, which is just one button press, we just go and it's super quiet and it still gets great depth in salt water. Okay, we got another one. That was just the bottle cap like 1 meter away and we've got another one. Oh, there it is. So that's another bottle cap. So when you're finding a ton and you just start finding a load, like I wouldn't turn it up too much now because it's only 2. If I was finding tons, I'd just turn the bottle cap reject all the way up and avoid them and just keep going. So a lot of people like to have a cold beverage on the beach, and so you can get a lot of bottle caps in some areas. Most metal detectorists, people swinging metal detectors, are going to avoid those areas in favor of cleaner areas. But what you'll find is a lot of people tend to lose their stuff when after a few cold beverages or just where people have been gathering in general. So it's amazing to be able to eliminate bottle caps and not eliminate the gold ring where you classically would on most detectors. With bottle cap rejection at 0, this is what the gold ring will sound like. And this is what the bottle cap will sound like. They're both very clear signals. So I'm just going to increase that up to, let's just go 7 out of 8, for example. We still get a very clear signal on the ring. And we get a very muted, almost disappears completely. If I get close enough, we can get something. Otherwise, they're very obviously different. And 99% of the time, you're not going to dig that bottle cap, but you can still detect all the coins and jewelry and rings. So I've just got a target here, a really faint, really shallow sounding one. It's about a 20 on the Legend. If you just want to have a look at the target ID on the screen. Again, I'm just using the very stock settings. It's a bit all over the place, this one, but it's a very faint signal. We'll see if it's shallow or deep. No, maybe it is a deep one. And the deeper targets are in the sand, the more jumpy the target identity tends to be. I can just hear it's very faint. I've obviously just missed it and it's fallen in the hole a bit further, which happens quite often. And now we've got a really strong signal. We've got a 21, which which is what we originally had. So that 21 could be a 5-cent coin, or it could be a bit of foil or something. We'll have a look. So it's about here if I had to guess. And we have a 5-cent coin. Brilliant. Well, that's actually a recent one. She's got the pearl necklace on. So yeah, 2022. One of the last 5-cent coins with the queen on it. Cool. On to the next one. So when I am detecting the beach, I do like to grid up and down. I like to walk up and down the beach and not across the beach. So if you just look up here, I'm walking towards the water and then away from the water back up the hill. This strategy means that the detector can calibrate to the salt water more gradually if I'm only slowly walking down, rather than if I'm sideways to the water, this side's saltier downhill and this side's less salty. So the detector's trying to process that, and you'll actually not detect some targets. You'll miss some buried metals when you're detecting up and down the beach on a sideways slant. So I always detect perpendicular to the beach, up and down like this, in and out of the water. It's the best way. I've just vaguely marked an X here so I didn't lose this target because I kept going. But I'm back at this target now, and we've got a very solid 36, 37. Just a quick little tip on pinpointing targets. Now on the Legend, you've got this pinpoint function, which is this button here, where my thumb is. And basically, if you get pretty close to the target, you hold it down and you move around. The louder and higher pitch that sound gets, the closer you are to the target. So now we know we're on the center line. So it drops out there. It drops out there. So we know that right here, I was just showing you, but normally you can just move your coil right over the top, that's it. But this is where the target is. Another way you can pinpoint targets, and this is my preferred way, is to not actually use the pinpoint function. It's just a different way that some people like to do it. And what I do is I just move my coil quickly side to side like this. And I know that on a coil like this, the metal targets beep as they cross through this center line here. Imagine this is a blade coming out through the center of your coil. And basically, as the metal target passes, or the blade passes over that metal target, you get a sound. So you basically imagine your coil is just that bit down the middle. And what I do is I just keep doing that until it stops. And that, precisely where I drew that circle, is where that target is. You can also do it from multiple directions if you like to make sure it's accurate, but that's close enough for me. Sand digging is so easy that I'm just gonna go straight down and dig that. Now, if a coin or ring is slightly on its side, it'll actually project up to the top. So just say, I think the target's here, but the target's down, this far and it's on an angle, then you'll think that the target's here when it's actually, you want to dig here. But that's just what happens when coins and rings are on their side. So that's it there. Let's have a look. I don't even know what this is. That is a random bit of junk, but it's not steel apparently. Normally when you get steel or iron on the Legend, it's going to be between the numbers 1 and 10. But by default, when you turn this beach mode on, all the iron is discriminated out, which means you're not going to get a signal when you detect iron. So you can ignore it, which is pretty much what we want on the beach. We don't want to dig most steel things. Okay, we've got another signal, pretty much 2728, which technically could be close to a 10-cent coin, but normally 10-cent coins are a 26 in Australia. Still in there, I like that. The deeper, the better. Unless it's a really giant, oh, that's not real. That can't be real. That can't be real. Oh, I think that's genuine. Oh my God. Look at it. It's cool. Oh my God. So we've just got this golden chain. I don't know if it's gold yet. It looks very gold and it's in pretty good condition, but I'll have to take it home and have a look. So stoked about that. That was a 28 and that was a couple scoops down. So that was a 28 on the Legend. Yeah, super excited. Let's get on to some more. Can't wait to get to the next treasure. Let's go. One of my favorite things about beach detecting and underwater detecting is just how much the beach changes each time. So I've been to this beach a few times over the years, and each time it's totally different. Actually, behind me, that rock there, I don't remember seeing that one in any of the years I've been here. So that's really nice. And that changes on a daily basis depending on tides and swells and all random stuff I don't have a total understanding of. But basically, look out for rocks like that. That's never gonna move really. It's gonna just sit there, and the more you see of it, the less sand there is, the more likely you are to be detecting down further where all those good, valuable targets are. So that's what I love about the beach. So when I'm swinging, I always keep my coil as close to the sand as possible. I pretty much scrape the sand. That gives me every inch of depth possible. Because if you have your coil off the ground, every inch that you lift it off the ground, that's an inch of depth, or that's depth that you lose. So if you have it 1 inch off the soil, you lose 1 inch. There's some scenarios where you might not do that, but mostly you want to keep the coil right on the ground, just like this. This isn't actually damaging the coil itself. You can see a cover on there. Most detectors have a coil cover, and basically that just protects the coil itself. So you can skid it on the ground and you just keep the coil as low as you possibly can. I've only worn through one skid plate ever because sand doesn't normally wear it down too fast. So this machine's fully waterproof. I frequently dive with the machine. Actually, this ring that I'm wearing, it's one of only a few rings I've ever found that fits my fingers. I found this with a Legend while it's underwater diving in Sydney with this very machine actually. And yeah, essentially it's waterproof to 3 meters. I don't have the waterproof headphones on right now. We just got a signal. I don't have the waterproof headphones on now so you guys can hear it clearly. But when I am obviously underwater detecting, or most of the time when I am detecting, I just leave the waterproof headphones on all the time. Right now I can see this area varies wildly depending on the day and what the tides have been, but we've got a lot of little crab holes and the sand is quite soft under my feet. So what that means or says to me is that it's very, very soft sand and it goes a very deep down until we get to the more hard, compact sand. Now, that hard, compact sand, that's where your gold jewelry and your coins and pretty much all the valuable and good stuff's gonna be. So when you see lots of little holes from all the little crabs and invertebrates, you're likely in a soft sand area, which is a good thing to look out for. And I can actually see out there, it's darker. So when the tide comes down, those darker areas are obviously deeper. I can see there's actually weed growing in there, and that weed tends to only grow where it's harder and there's shells and it's, you know, more solid, because weed's not going to try and grow in really soft sand. That's actually a really good indicator to me that that's a really good spot over there because the gold jewelry, coins and stuff might be sitting down at the same level as the weed. So I've ventured down into the water. Now this is pure salt water, by the way. The ocean's just through that breakwall. You can actually just see it. But what that means is most of the time with the metal detectors, as soon as you venture in or near salt water, the machine will start going ballistic and detecting the salt in the salt water, which means that you can't tell if it's a real metal target or not. But with this thing set up in beach multi-wet, basically it's totally quiet. I haven't changed a setting other than that. And it means that every time that I actually do get a beep, I know that it's actually a real bit of metal under the coil and not the salt water tricking the detector into thinking there's something. So that's just absolute default settings. Really happy with that. Being distracted by pelicans, but I also have a signal. Awesome. That is in the $1 to $2 range. There we go. That is a $2 coin. Been down there a while, but still in spendable condition. 2016 or 18 by the look of it. I reckon there's another one in here. I just pulled that $2 out, but there's a very faint signal. And we're getting a ID that's just close to the one we just got. A bit further forwards in the hole. It's hard once you dig the first couple scoops, you can't see anything. Not yet, it's in there. I knew this one would be deeper because it's so faint. but it's getting a bit stronger every scoop I get that signal. Might actually have it on this one. Let's sift it out. Oh yeah, it's another one. That's another $2 coin. This one's slightly cleaner. I can read it. 2019. Cool. I knew it. As soon as I got that first one, a very faint signal, and just so often people lose more than one coin at a time. That one's also a bit blackened, but not as bad as the other one. So I just got a 25-26 on the Legend just then. I have already shaken the scoop out and looked, but it's a Australian 10-cent coin. Which is generally what they come up as, is a 26 on the Legend. Okay, on to the next. Yeah, absolutely beautiful day today. I might have mentioned earlier that I had no real expectations. There's not been any big swell or any big tides, and it's been actually pretty decent. We've got a couple of coins so far and that chain as well, so that was really interesting. But to show this machine in its absolute default program, so anyone who gets onto it and just switches it into beach mode, they can feel confident that it's going to work in and out of the salt water or at the beach without literally a single setting change other than the brightness, as I mentioned. Totally stock program, and yeah, it works really well. It's super stable in salt water, but there are some little things you can tweak to your preference, like the bottle cap setting, and then there's the audio gain setting. But again, those are more preference things. So I know a lot of people do get worried about, should it be up, down, left, right, 1, 2, 3, 4 with settings. And a lot of the time a manufacturer, well, at least Nokta, they have made this machine so that it's ready to use out of the box, and so that there isn't confusion. And for the most part, the settings are really there for people that want to just tailor it and change the machine to their preference. It's not necessarily better or worse. So in my opinion, if you're going to start out at the beach using this machine, just leave it absolutely default, and that's it. Just turn it on, and you can't go wrong. And once you just kind of learn what you want, you'll yeah, be able to tweak those things a little bit and get exactly what you want out of it. But before you start detecting, you won't really know what that is. So just turn on and go, honestly. So this here is a rock, which doesn't sound very interesting, but they always make me really excited. This one's looks like it's got a bit of concrete and sandstone connected to each other, but any rocks that start to stick out, that's exactly where I go and put my detector straight over it. Now this one's a little bit different because it has algae growing on it, so it has been exposed to the sun for a while, which is why the algae can grow on it. But when you find rocks that are very clean, that's when they've actually been under the sand for a long time, and they've only recently been revealed, which means that the conditions are probably good and you're probably going to find a lot of targets in my experience. All right, let's keep going. Oh, just pulled up on this one. That's an extremely solid 45. Ooh. If I don't have Bottle Cap Reject on, which I don't, because I'm using absolute stock settings, one of the ways I check for bottle caps is by lifting the coil up. And if the ID, the number on the screen changes significantly by doing that, then it is an indication there's bottle cap. The ID doesn't seem to change much. So this could be a copper or silver coin, or some other random junk. Cool, what have we got here? So I've just pulled this up, I've bent it. That's actually a bit of copper. See how it's pink? Copper goes green and pink when it's corroded. And basically copper like this is rarely used in things today. So this is actually a good sign we're onto an area that's been frequented for a while, had a bit of traffic over the years in terms of the amount of people coming through. So it's actually quite dense too, which is a good sign because we're looking for dense targets and they tend to hang around in similar areas together. So quite happy with that piece there. On to the next one. Often in hard packed sand like this, where you can't see where you've been stepping, I'll drag my scoop with the point down so it leaves a really obvious drag mark so I know where I've been already. And I know when I drag my scoop, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to be swinging on the right side of that line. So we actually have a few targets around here. Don't know if I'm going to dig all of them up, but there's something there. And then there's a really strong one here. I'll probably be able to honestly dig it out with my fingers. Yes. That's a bit of lead. Again, I'm actually quite happy about that. That's pretty old, that one. I'm sure there's going to be some more dense targets around here. Let's keep going. So I've just dug the sinker out of this hole here. I haven't detected another target, but I just want to show you what the sand looks like. See, we've got a lot more shells and rocks, and we even actually pulled up these two as well. So as you go further down, you tend to get bigger pieces and like more coarse sand and rocks. If you're not finding that, then try and find a spot where if you dig down, you start finding it. That'll really maximize your odds if you start finding more coarse sand and rocks and shells like this. That was a really fun beach session, guys. I honestly had no intentions other than to give some beach detecting tips of using the Legend and just beach detecting tips in general, especially in Australia. But look, honestly, surprises like that gold chain can just pop up out of nowhere when you least expect it, when really it's nice to just be out in the sun and just go for a walk and you don't know what you're going to find. Like, honestly, if you're going to plan, probably go at low tide and maybe after a storm if you really want to maximize it. But this is an average day at detecting. You know, you can easily find a handful of coins and trash, obviously. You can avoid those bottle caps if you put your mind to it quite easily. And you can definitely find some very interesting, valuable, old, interesting stuff as well. So I'm going to do some more videos like this, guys. Let me know what you'd like to see, and I'll see you in the next video.